Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Thursday, January 6, 2011. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S., 4:30 p.m. in London, 12:30 in Hamilton, and 10:30 in Mexico City. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. We'll go directly to our news. It's been a busy day. There's a scathing report that's come out from the U.S. government, a preliminary report regarding the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico back in the spring. Decisions by British Petroleum and its partners intended to save time and money triggered the explosion that led to the oil spill. This is according to the White House Oil Spill Commission's preliminary report. The commission described systemic problems within the offshore energy industry as well as with government regulators who oversaw it, and said a disaster could happen again unless significant reforms are carried out. The assessment was released yesterday, just a week before the final report is going to be due. It said that BP and its collaborators on the Macondo well had lacked a system to ensure their actions were safe. Quoting from the report, whether purposeful or not, many of the decisions that BP, Halliburton, and Transocean made that increased the risk of the Macondo blowout clearly saved those companies significant time and money. The explosion, of course, of the rig killed 11 people and dumped more than 800 million liters of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. The commission concluded that the spill was not an isolated incident caused by rogue industry or government officials and that it might well recur. Wow. Well, here's the new New York governor, Andrew Cuomo. Inaugurated just several days ago, he's already announced plans to merge the New York banking and insurance regulators into a single operation. Just for good measure, he's going to put in the Consumer Protection Board. Cuomo said in his State of the State address from Albany that our current organization is not effective because it's not organized the way Wall Street works anymore. He noted that the two departments, banking and insurance, had failed to regulate properly during the financial crisis of 2008. Cuomo was the Attorney General at the time. He was responsible for policing the financial services sector. Cuomo made the shock announcement, which generated nothing but a no comment from the state insurance department. The current superintendent, of course, is James Rinn. He was nominated by Mr. Cuomo's predecessor, David Patterson. Well, here's news from London. The stockbroker Panmure Gordon has cut its rating on Jardine Lloyd Thompson to hold from buy, following misplaced rumors that the company will be taken over. An analyst for Gordon, Barry Corns, wrote in a research note this morning that JLT shares had a very strong run at the end of 2010. The shares closed yesterday at £6.22. They're up 30% over the last 12 months. The analyst said that while he views JLT positively, and expects it to hit its profit target of 41.58p a share, he attributes the recent share performance, the run-up, in part to misplaced speculation that JLT will receive a bid from one of its larger rivals. There could only mean Marsh, Aon, or Willis. The analyst notes that since JLT has a 30% stake held by Jardine Matheson, he said, "We view that an acquisition is unlikely. Jardine Matheson would not want to sell its stake while JLT continues to deliver a steady income stream." Each time a rumor about a takeover of JLT has come up, the company has repeatedly dismissed them as gossip. Ironshore is in the news today. The Bermuda-based insurer has set up a new European insurance company called Ironshore Europe Limited. It's based in Dublin. Fiona Mary has been appointed as the new CEO. She'll report to Ironshore Europe's board, chaired by Mark Wheeler, who is also the CEO of Ironshore International. The company received authorization from the Central Bank of Ireland in December last year. News from Medina, Minnesota. Treen Reinsurance Services, a division of Treen Corporation, has appointed Sean Ryan as new Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President. Prior to Treen Re, Ryan held senior reinsurance positions with Swiss Re, CNA Re, and Carville. At Carville, he was Senior VP, focused on captive, pool, and PRG production. Treen Re President Andrew O'Brien said that Ryan had led the increased production in 2010. Treen is an independent employee-owned holding company with subsidiaries in the reinsurance industry. Axis, and I hate these stories, but since they're out there, we'll come out with it. Axis Capital's President and Chief Executive John Charman will earn an annual basic salary of $1.57 million US this year. The company revealed this salary information in a filing made with the SEC. Charman will also be eligible to participate in a non-equity incentive plan at an incentive target of no less than about $1.9 million. Michael Butt, who's the chairman of Axis Capital and one of the founders of Mid-Ocean Re a long time ago, had his contract extended to the end of next year at an annual base salary of $750,000. David Redding, Axis Capital's chief operating officer, will earn $780,000. John Gressier, chairman of Axis Insurance, will earn $910,000, and our friend Bill Fisher, the CEO of Axis Re, will earn a salary of $885,000. Fisher is a very hard worker and a very well-respected man in the industry. We wish all those gentlemen well. Cooper Gay has announced that it's appointed a new head of non-marine broking. Alan Abel is coming from Aon. He's going to be based in London, although he has a global remit. He has responsibility for, quote, coordinating and directing Cooper Gay's specialist resources to enhance the services provided to international clients. Abel is going to report direct to Richard Mahoney, managing director of Cooper Gay's non-marine division. We'll go to a word from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news.
You may have already seen the demonstration of the CATEX Global Exchange in action. Some of the features of the exchange and our Pivot Point 2 software are especially useful to facultative and excess surplus lines brokers and markets. Here, we see the opening page of the contract workspace, which shows some of the details of a facultative risk as seen by the listing broker. Behind this opening page are screens which provide details of the contract of certificate, details on the parties or markets on the certificate, details of the exposures on the certificate, including aggregate data of the underlying risks, details on each of the insured risks, policy or certificate documents, including document templates, as well as automatic email links. This screen also provides links to details of the layers for brokers, the at-risk markets, premium information, policy accounting statements, the policy claims history, endorsements, and contract documents. The Pivot Point system is the backbone of the exchange platform. Pivot Point provides easy input of data as well as seamless structuring of the data into policy documents, accounting records, and statements, as well as underwriting criteria. The system allows brokers to focus their efforts on where they bring their clients the most value added, determining the appropriate layers and selecting the markets which are appropriate for the risk and layer. In these markets, timing and access to data are especially critical. For example, in a risk involving numerous properties, a broker will likely have a data file listing the properties subject to the risk. The system allows brokers to easily upload data files to the system. The exchange allows brokers to offer the risk and make sure the data are available only to markets authorized by the broker. The exchange software automatically converts the uploaded data to structured data. Markets which are interested in reviewing the risk can easily use the data to underwrite the risk. We are working on providing links to a third-party risk assessment firm which will be able to provide property-level risk of loss calculations. These are only some of the features which make the CATEX Global Exchange and our Pivot Point system especially useful to brokers and markets in the facultative and excess and surplus lines business. Please contact us for a demonstration of all the advantages you can get from the CATEX Global Exchange and the Pivot Point system. CATEX, an unfair advantage unless you are trading with us.
Little update from Queensland, Australia. Let's bring this picture up. I chose this picture because it's people wading across the street in actually in the town of Rockmont, and this is a result of the Fitzroy River rising. And you see that dog over on the right. I guess the water is not deep enough for the dog to swim, but too deep for the dog to walk with ease. But they've been experiencing even more rain there, although finally the river apparently is beginning to recede. One mayor in the area is saying that it could take a city up to a whole year to recover from the worst flooding in decades. Officials are only now beginning to see the scope of the damage as the river has finally begun to drop a little bit. Apparently in Queensland, 75% of the state's lucrative coal mines have been shut down. Total cost of all the devastation is not yet known that, but the Queensland Premier says that the figure, including the rebuilding of homes, businesses, and infrastructure, coupled with economic losses, could be as high as $5 billion. The good news is that despite the fresh rains, the floods do seem to be receding somewhat. So we mentioned yesterday that International Insurance Australia Group and QBE, as well as Suncor, had come out with some estimates saying that they believe their reinsurance will protect them. The $5 billion figure has got to have them re-examining their contracts. Here's the port of Fos-la-Vera in Marseille. This is one of the world's biggest oil ports. It's the biggest port in France. It's back to normal now today. This is after it was shut down for about 2 hours by a fatal explosion at a nearby chemical site. The port suspended activities this morning at about 8 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. A worker was killed at a chemical plant in Gazichim, a nearby area. The traffic is now restarted in the port. The explosion was confined to the industrial area. Apparently it was a bottle destined to be filled with chlorine that exploded. There's been a big backup. The port has slowly been recovering from the 5-week strike earlier this, actually it was last year in the autumn, when the oil workers began protesting. Big civil unrest in the capital of Algeria, in Algiers. If you're at La Défense in Paris at Score-Ri, Mr. Kessler and company, you're looking south at this. Here's the president of Algeria, President, why don't we pull him up, President Bouteflika. Police had to fire tear gas and rubber bullets at groups of youth who were protesting in the capital of Algiers last night. Crackles of gunfire were also heard. The youths were stoning government buildings and burning tires throughout the streets. The government announced price increases on staples and basic foods, and there's apparently a flour shortage, and people are concerned that they're going to run out of bread. The government, in the person of the president, recently won re-election with 90-some% of the votes, which is always suspicious. That's a Saddam Hussein majority from the old days. And he also announced the end of elections for the future. So there is quite a bit of unrest there, and Algeria is a well-known province of French reinsurance, if not governmental anymore. For our final story, Turkish Airlines has a story that is a foiled hijack attempt by a group of passengers on a plane. A hijack attempt on a Turkish Airlines Boeing 737-800 flying from Oslo, Norway to Istanbul was foiled by passengers. Turkish media are saying that the 737-800 saw a passenger storm the cockpit about 50 minutes away from arriving in Ankara. Officials said that the man claimed to have a bomb and demanded that the plane return to Norway. However, passengers on the flight tackled the man, and the plane landed safely at Ataturk Airport at about 7:30 p.m. last night. One passenger said, "We were 50 minutes away from touchdown when I heard a lot of noise at the back of the plane. I turned around and there was a person who had his face covered and was wearing a cap and had dark clothes. The man spoke Turkish and demanded that the plane return to Oslo." Police arrested the suspect immediately upon landing. No explosive device was found. The plane was carrying 60 passengers and a crew of 7. The man, after a brief 15-minute examination, the police declared him to be psychologically impaired. The U.S. unemployment numbers came out earlier, and they were not as good as people liked. They actually showed a little bit of a spike. This is after yesterday's big ADP expansion of jobs. So all eyes await tomorrow, 8:30 a.m., when the government releases its numbers from the Department of Labor for the December unemployment figures. The stock market will react accordingly, I'm sure. That's all the news we have for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. If not, we will see you tomorrow, and thank you for watching.